Introduction, we've already kind of beat that horse. I'm Patrick Avella, one of the senior developers here, a front-end specialist. I work at Upside. It's like the fourth or fifth time you're hearing that tonight.
Now remember.
So,
Where'd
just
you
in
work?
case you didn't hear it.
Where'd
So, paragraphs module, really big topic. It's on fire right now. So we're just going to talk about, really quick, about the paragraphs and the slides that I put together. What are some use cases for paragraphs? How do we use paragraphs? How do we theme paragraphs? And then we'll just talk really quick about like perks and drawbacks. Should be pretty cut and dry. So, this is only a primer. This is a big topic in the Drupal community right now. If you want to learn more about paragraphs, if you want more advanced information, if you want to read things that have less mistakes than the things that I say, definitely Google it. There's presentations and slides for this everywhere. I had recently gone to NetCamp. There was at least 3 sessions that had touched on paragraphs. So there's lots of resources out there. What paragraphs is building on the concept of bundling fields together. I don't know if anyone here has used field collections before. Another pretty popular thing. This builds on that concept, only it gives a little bit of flexibility to the end user that they can kind of pick and choose which field collections they put on the page. There's a great quote by Dries. I looked for it on the internet. I couldn't find it, so it's possible I'm making it up. But he said, the internet and the World Wide Web is a series of lists of content. Drupal works that way too. It's nodes 1 through 5 bajillion. It's a list of content that you sort through. This kind of abstracts that even further because now inside your content type, inside your pages, you now have a list of fields. So it's just another list of content. It's a way to componentize web elements. Chrome now supports a concept of web components. They're talking about the Internet of Things, buzzwords we may or may not hear in the future, but it helps componentize. That's good for the developer, it's good for the front-end themer, helps you find things and theme things without stepping on the toes of other elements. Gives a flexible way for users to build content, and we'll dive over that more. I have a little bit of a live demo set up. The big thing is it avoids dependence on WYSIWYGs. So a big issue I have when building websites for end users is they want like all of this advanced formatting and they want every page to kind of look different. And you give them a CK editor and you turn on all the options. They're uploading videos and pictures and they're justifying things and they're copy pasting Word files and tables. And it looks kind of okay on their screen, but because the websites are responsive now, the minute you start squishing this thing down, the table's jutting off the side, it's breaking your layout, or maybe sometimes you just can't trust your user and your user is just making your beautiful website look horrible. You kind of don't want that. So this is kind of a way to break away from the dependence of WYSIWYGs for formatting. And we'll talk about that too as we go through. So why use it? I'm gonna repeat myself a little bit. Componentizing for developers, this is great. So when you're programming or you're theming or anything of that nature, you have components. You can have a paragraph with a right justified picture component, and it just kind of lets you drill down on things, especially if you use something like lesser Sass, it helps you structure your code. And when you're working in code all day, nicely structured code is just a really nice thing to have. It's got an active community, very important, especially for contrib. I'm sure you guys remember when Drupal 7 came out, everyone was pledging, oh, we're going to have a Drupal 7 module right on launch day. And like 3/4 of the modules, it just didn't happen because they weren't active, popular modules. So since it's a really popular module right now, people are looking at it, they're using it, they're extending it, they're finding bugs, they're in the issue queues. So it's kind of a safe module to use on your production sites right now, and I find that to be comforting. There's comfort in that, because if it wasn't so active, you just kind of don't know if there's like a security flaw that no one found. And we're going to see paragraphs get better over time, I think, because it is getting so popular. Integrates with views, integrates with features, really important. And it plays well with others. So if you're familiar with field collections, it works the same way. If it's fieldable, you can use it in a paragraphs bundle. Really powerful. So if you have like fieldable views or entity references, you can now include those in your paragraph bundles, and your user has the ability to do things like add a slider anywhere they want in the page. No WYSIWYG involved, no developer involved, no separate content type involved. So it gives a lot of flexibility there. For site builders, again, it's a flexible way to build web pages without relying on the WYSIWYG. The WYSIWYG won't break your layout. You can have advanced formatting without using the WYSIWYG. Content behaves the way the developer intended it because you're not using the WYSIWYG. And there's no reliance on using advanced markup in the WYSIWYG. The theme here is WYSIWYG is like a nightmare from my perspective. Other people might feel differently. But this way you can kind of box your users in, and instead of having CK editor with every option under the sun on, you can now have bold, italic, underline, rule, and if they want an image, they can choose a paragraph type that already has the image field in there with the text nicely wrapped around. So it's a way to kind of box your user in and stop them from destroying your beautiful design. So how do we use it? This is really standard. Drush DL paragraphs, Drush EN paragraphs. That's, if you're not using Drush, use Drush. It makes a world of a difference. Then you create paragraph bundles. These are similar to field collections, and I'll throw it on the screen and we can look at it. So yeah, let's just throw it on the screen and have a look at this real quick. So I set up a real quick demo. We'll just go into the structure, and you'll see it adds this new paragraph bundles. I don't know if everyone can see that. Let me make everything a little bit bigger. So it adds this. This would be field collections if it was the field collections module. And I set up just some sample ones. So the demo site is about a theoretical martial arts tournament. So I have a competitor type. Works how you would think it is. You go in, you add your fields. Really straightforward. I'm sure you guys have all seen this before. Same display as a content type. Really straightforward. So then the magic comes in when you actually add it to your content type. So I've added a paragraphs field to the article type. And you'll see I kind of butchered it. I took out the body. So here's our paragraphs field type. We'll just go into edit real quick. It lets you filter down which bundles you want the user to have access to in that field, so you can have tons of different bundles for different purposes used in different places. It gives you a lot of flexibility with wording of things, which is really nice. Some clients are like super picky over wording. Some options here. If you're interested in this stuff, we could talk about it forever, but Drush DL paragraphs, Drush EN paragraphs, you can play with it, you'll figure it out. Really straightforward stuff. The important thing is the number of values. You set it to unlimited, so you can have more than one paragraph, otherwise you're defeating the purpose. So then let's go ahead and look at what that looks like. So I just made a really simple page here. So it looks a lot like what you would expect. These are all different paragraphs. So let's start a new one for giggles. So this is just, plain field. Here's the magic. So I set paragraphs to buttons. I like the buttons. I think they're easier to read if you only have a few type. So we're going to add a header. This is a header. We're going to add a competitor. We're going to name him Patrick. We're going to give him a black belt because he's just super cool. And he's going to compete in block breaking. And we're going to hit save. There's our header. There's our competitor. And there's, the description that wasn't a paragraph. So what's nice about this is you can add more competitors. You can add another header. By looking at this, you can kind of see where the flexibility is. You can have all different types. You can have addresses or contact forms. There's a fieldable blocks module you can use. There's, you can embed entity references. You can embed the owl carousel. You can have, an image upload field that lets them make an image carousel right in the paragraph without having to go into views. And then you can reuse that same functionality all over the place. So people really like stuff that moves around. This gives them the ability to add that functionality wherever they want without coming to the developer and saying, hey, I want this slider jutted into this part of the page.
Is reorganizing the context built in or something with it?
So now reorganizing the content, it's same Drupal functionality and just kind of move it around. So now we put the header at the bottom. And now the header is at the bottom. So, and I'm going to talk about that on the very last slide too. So there are a couple of drawbacks. If you notice, we'll go back to my first demo content. We'll go here. That's a lot of paragraphs. So, and that's only 5 things. So if I want to move, this all the way down here, it's kind of klutzy. There's some very intelligent people working on different interfaces for this. So as those projects mature, I'm sure they'll get folded in to the official branches. So let's go back to our presentation. So how do we theme it? Really important. Kind of not useful if you can't theme it. So entity paragraphs item is the default CSS class that it puts on all the divs. Paragraphs item dash bundle name is what it puts around the div of the individual bundle. And then you can also use a template file. And this is functionality that comes right from the entity API. Paragraph item dash dash bundle name. And you can find that right in the module paragraph slash theme. And there's a couple of TPL files there. You can also template the entire paragraphs item as well, so not just the individual ones. For live demo, just zoom in there and show you what that looks like. So here's my theme. This is a Bootstrap subtheme. Here's a style.css file. And as you can see, I put some padding on all of the items. and I put a hover effect on the competitor bundle. And if you go in, close this, you can see that hover effect. Really straightforward CSS. Makes it really easy. Now you'll see for semantic reasons, I went into the template and I made this header text an actual H2. And I'll show you how that works. Just going into, I called the bundle header. So it's paragraphs, items, -- header.tpl.php, clear the cache, it picks up the template. All I did was add an H2 tag. So development terms, I mean, that's pretty straightforward. I also put some advanced functionality with templates. So here, this paragraph has a yellow bar on the side of it. You can change that just to kind of show the flexibility. Let's make it a black bar. We'll save it. Now it's black. And the way I did that is just in the template file, you can mangle it. It'll work a little bit differently in Drupal 8 because of how Twig works. But really, you take the value out of the content array. It's all documented. It's all in there. And I got that from sites, all modules, paragraphs, theme, and those are the template files you can use. So pretty straightforward. Okay, so pros and cons. We're almost done with this thing. So it's the hot new solution. Everyone's talking about this. You go to, a Drupal camp, or if you come to the Drupal meetup at Upside, you're going to hear about paragraphs. A lot of people are into it. It helps you reduce the dependence on the WYSIWYG, and it helps you structurize components. So it's good for the end user, good for the developer, it's good for the themer, and I think it's a good way to go moving forward, especially with the concept of structurizing individual components on the internet. Now, the cons is it's a hot new solution. That means things are going to change. There's going to be bugs. If you build a site with this and you're not keeping up to date with the updates and you come back 5 months later, it might look completely different. So I wouldn't call it very stable because it is still so up and coming. And the interface is clunky. And that's part of it being a new solution. It's not fully fleshed out yet. So the interface is clunky. Those are the only real cons that I've come across. Unlike field collections where the support for views was kind of iffy. I don't know if it's come anywhere since then, but this has been integrated with views, with features. It's pretty much production ready. Only thing is it's a little bit clunky if you have a lot of content, and it's going to change, and it's something you have to think about going forward. So, talked about paragraphs. We talked about I am not infallible. Things I've said could be wrong. If you want to learn more, Google it. Tons of resources on it. We talked about why you would use it and why we hate the WYSIWYG. We talked about how we use it, how we set up, the bundles, really straightforward, just like a content type. We went over how to theme it, again, really straightforward stuff. And we talked really quick about the perks and the drawbacks. Couple of perks, couple of drawbacks. That's it. So does anyone have any questions for me?
How do you really feel about WYSIWYGs?
I think they suck. So before I finally broke down and started using CK Editor, there's something called BU Editor. And it's an anti-WYSIWYG. So what it does is it takes the filtered text box and it puts the bold, the underline, the different buttons you would expect. But instead of doing WYSIWYG, it would insert HTML tags. And I thought that was a decent approach because a content editor, if they're going to be working on the web, they should know the 5 to 10 different HTML tags. And it was restrictive, so it didn't break layouts. CK Editor now has much more options than it used to. You can filter out tags that you don't like. You can automatically filter out attributes. So the WYSIWYGs are still getting better with time. But in general, like, making a WYSIWYG and just turning everything on is generally bad news, in my opinion.
Only turning it on for developers or just too
Right,
lazy to do
right.
it.
So you have a
Okay.
special administrator-only text
I'm
format.
for, no, I don't think users need to do any WYSIWYGing or HTML period.
Yeah, it's
I'm
better
this
if
far
they
in
don't.
the spectrum.
If you want your content to be reusable, you want to chunk it out.
Yeah.
as much as
If you can have a plain
Especially-
text format everywhere, that's optimal, I think.
Yeah, especially with responsive design, and like you said, being able to use that content anywhere on the site.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
Or
the
another
trick.
site.
So, how
Or
does-
another site.
Sorry.
She's thinking ahead of me. She's got stuff.
So I'm just curious how this ends up working with views. So, for example, let's say you have I don't know, some type of content type.
Let's do a live demo
Yes, please.
right now.
Thank you.
Because I just know it's integrated. I haven't actually messed with that aspect of it much.
That sounds great. Thanks.
If you're using display suite or panels, I know that like any view you can throw into one of those as well.
Yeah, it's really popular to use this with like display suite or panels. So we're going to show
The Department of
content.
Redundancy.
So,
You need to pick the style that was not fields.
oh geez, I'm already screwing this up. Sorry, folks.
It's okay. We're only sort of judging you.
Only sort of.
Only sort of.
So,
Go down unformatted list there, where it says teasers. Next, that one. No, one over. That one. Go title, fields.
Don't take the site builder one tomorrow back.
let's just.
Unformatted list of
We're gonna. All right, we're gonna do this a different way. We're gonna do it the way I normally do it. We're just gonna go into the view, and we're gonna change it in there.
Yeah.
This is the way I usually do it. Oh yeah, unformatted list, show fields. Okay, so let's see. Full name was under. I know it has support for views. I might be putting my foot in my mouth. Let's see.
Do you have to do a relationship?
Because that's what you have to do with field functions. Create the
Yeah.
relationship.
Oh, this is turning into a views demo
Go
now.
advanced.
Could make this for next
Add a
time.
relationship.
Maybe have it off in the
Yeah, what are we thinking?
config.
I'm thinking we have a topic for next time.
Well, what's the field called that has the paragraphs?
It should be full name.
Full name?
It says it's usable in views. I'm not
Yeah,
making
yeah,
this
no,
up,
I
I
definitely-
swear.
There it is, useful.
Hmm.
You named your paragraph bundle in your content type format?
Oh, maybe.
That's the
Let's try that.
field name.
No. No.
Now I know why he thinks Drupal sucks.
Okay, so you'll just have to believe me that view support is in here. It just doesn't work for me personally.
Just keep scrolling down slowly. Don't
There for me.
Just scroll, yeah, there.
create an entity view.
I would have guessed it was the entity. Let's see.
Hmm.
Yeah. So if you go into content.
Oh,
driven-
here we go. So it's its own type. So so that's what that looks like. We're at the crux of my views, paragraphs, integration knowledge.
So then you turn it into some kind of.
Yeah, so. Yeah, okay, so now we actually have stuff.
It's already there in field function. Yeah.
So that's what it looks like. I'm sure you can pull out the node ID as well.
Have you used it with revisioning at all?
I have used it with revisions. It works great with revisions. But it is touch and go with the diff module. Also with revisions, with workflow, Workbench in particular, the production branch of paragraphs does not play well with Workbench, but the dev branch does. There's a patch, it just hasn't made its way into live yet. In case you're working with Workbench.
You
in
guys use
workflows.
Workbench, that's the question, you know, if you're gonna try Workflow lately, or? That's exciting. Okay. Good to know. Those are the two
Yeah. But
areas that
it
bite
works.
you-
It
bite us
works
in
with
the butt.
revisions. It works with
Revisions and Workbench.
the diff module.
Cool. Other questions?
Have you had any feedback from your users on their side of using
Yes. So far they like
it? They
it.
like it?
I've had no. Haven't brought it through to many clients yet, but I assume they will like it. And if they don't, I'll explain to them why they do.
True salesman.
Well, it seems like it'd
If you
be
get,
easier
if you
for them
provided
to
to
set
a
up.
customer that you took away, he's.
I think so
You don't have to go through and
too.
figure out a lot of stuff, you just pick stuff.
Are you concerned about ongoing maintenance, since it hasn't really shaken out yet?
Yes. So I'm sure we all have horror stories, but for example, I was using computed field a lot in a certain project, and that project hadn't been updated in a while, and I updated it one day, and everything broke. And it was because they added a new configuration option. So it's very possible that could happen again. Actually, yeah, it's just very possible.
I did notice that there's one person who seems to do the bulk of the commits, but there are several people who participate. So
Yeah,
that's
it's a
encouraging.
popular module. So at least we know it's not going to die on us. Things will change, but through progression, not through getting stale.
And it's been out for like 2 years, like because like in the last 6 months, it's really boomed. Like
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
I think it's
Point
taken a
or-
while for most people to understand its application. So when you first look at it, you go, so it's yet another panels variant or alternative. And then you start to, I know when we first heard about it 18 months ago, Meredith? Was that the time it was the trip to Yale. That's all I remember. It was, you looked at it and you went, okay, I don't see the applicability. And then, like DrupalCon LA, they did a couple sessions on it, and you go, oh,
which was April maybe
May.
May, right? Yeah.
So-
April, May it goes from 4,000 to 8,000 installs. Yes.
Well, and I think they actually released a couple of
Yeah.
theme-related upgrades to it, and that seemed to be, you sort of look at it and you go, maybe I don't need panels after all. I could get by with just this because it's got that sort of drag and drop
Yeah.
but it's only in one dimension, and the complexity goes way down, because it's not really fighting the way Drupal does layouts, it's really just using it.
So my secret plan, part of it is, our website is actually on WordPress. We have Civi on Drupal, and I want to, get us
Move
off
it
of
to
WordPress and I'm getting, not surprisingly, some
That's how it usually
resistance.
goes.
So this paragraphs, for example, because this is someone who's only ever used WordPress as far as ease of use compared
Right.
to, add in more ease of use if you're a longtime WordPress, user or.
If you want ease of use, I don't know if you've messed with Drupal 8 yet, or if you feel like plunging into Drupal 8.
Yeah.
But the usability, Drupal 6 to Drupal 7 was a huge increase in
Right.
usability, and the same thing's going to be true for Drupal 7 and Drupal 8.
Right.
So if you're going to try to sell Drupal on someone, I would definitely show them the Drupal 8 interface. It's a little bit more flexible, especially with like the block system.
So paragraphs along with a bunch of other modules on Drupal 8, but it's
Right.
long dead.
Paragraphs Drupal 8 module is in dev.
Right.
I haven't actually used that. I don't know if it's usable
Right.
or not.
But that'll be part of the toolbox for.
Yeah. Yeah, someone's going
Right.
to finish porting it. It's
Right.
not going to be me, but
Right.
someone's going to do
No.
it. They like saying the open source community, if you want to see it done, do it yourself.
Right.
But I have other stuff to do.
There's also distributions
Right.
that might really be up and ready for you to go after.
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's open public.
Yeah. There's,
Yeah.
Might be really, go with Civi CRM. I think they complement each other.
Cool.
Where are you from?
Oh, I'm here in Albany. I'm with Citizen Action of New York.
Citizen Action New York?
Citizen Action of New York, right up on the Central Ave there.
It's,
I think the other one you want to look at is
is it an
OpenAid.
agency or is it?
We're a
for-
leftist progressive advocacy group. Or
OpenAid.
progressive advocacy group.
Non-for-profit or?
Not for profit. We're C4. Yeah. We have no money, but relative. Greg, sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just trying to think. I think there's one other that might. I'm trying to think which one it is. OpenAid
Okay.
is for NGOs.
Okay. Cool.
yeah, that's why I was thinking there's a few.
Open Public's
distributions.
more for government agencies.
Okay.
OpenAid was designed for NGOs and nonprofits.
But sometimes I have to look at different distributions to see how different things like author experience and things are.
Yeah, even if you don't use the distribution, steal the ideas.
Yeah, totally cool.
Right out of the box. Right out of the box, you might have to say, oh, okay, that's right there. That's what I need.
Right.
You never know.
Yeah, great. It looks good. OpenAid thing.
Are there paragraphs related questions or
So-
general questions?
If you end up
too?
using it,
So
let me know.
paragraphs,
I
yeah,
know the
it's
people.
easy if you just add the,
Add
like you
design
can just
as
do
in
regular
Denver.
content and then it's, for the relationship, you add paragraphs and then it's all there and yeah, you can get DID and like
Yeah.
NID and everything else that you need, so,
Yeah.
yeah,
You'll probably have to do a relationship in
If-
there.
yeah,
But
do a
it
relationship, it's all there.
works. There's some views magic.
Yeah.
If you're comfortable, it's probably easier to open up a custom module. That's what I do for any sort of advanced searching. There's a entity field query API call that makes it really easy to programmatically search Drupal, along with node load and node save. Makes it pretty easy.